What's going on, guys? It is Omid from Well, What Do You Think? And we are here with a new type of video where we do a tier list ranking. And for all my Mortal Kombat fans, fighting game fans, this video is for you guys. So with the announcement of EVO going around and Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, all of us were so excited for fighting games. Everyone was thinking, where is NRS? We had MK11 come out, I believe, like 4 or 5 years ago, and we heard nothing from NRS what's going next. But this week, it was leaked that MK12 is actually coming out in 2023. So in 2023, we have Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and Mortal Kombat 12 coming out. And I thought to myself, being a Mortal Kombat fan, I got a Mortal Kombat t-shirt on. This is the perfect time to go in and rank every single Mortal Kombat game. But before I do that, I need to go pick something up. Okay, now I think we're ready for this tier list review. So the way we're doing this is we have 5 rankings. We have a best tier, a great tier, decent tier, average, and worst. So we can all know that's shit tier. So the games that we are ranking are starting from Mortal Kombat 1 all the way to 11. And let's get started, boys. So when I think of Mortal Kombat, I think we can't start with the cream of the crop right away. I think let's start with a fan favorite actually to some people, but to me it's not one of my favorites, and it's Mortal Kombat 3. I think base Mortal Kombat 3 actually lands on average for me. I think the reason why is because the roster in the beginning was so meh. You're missing iconic characters such as Scorpion, Melina, Baraka, all the awesome characters from Mortal Kombat 2, are missing in this game, and we have a roster of all these whack-ass new characters. Like we got Striker, who's a cop. We got Nightwolf. Actually, Nightwolf's fine. I'm not the biggest Nightwolf fan, but we also got like Sindel, and like I don't know who is like a big Sindel fan. I don't know. To me, I grew up on MK2, so seeing base Mortal Kombat 3, I thought this roster was very underwhelming. Cabal also looked really stupid back then, so we're putting that at average. Get that game out of here. Get that game out of here. The next one, let's go ahead and look at. Let's go MK4. This was actually for us growing up on the N64 era. I grew up really liking this, but as I got older playing it again, I realized it was kind of dog shit, and I think that's kind of the consensus on this. We all know that infamous Jarek ending. Oh, you can't stop me! Ah! And he falls off.
Black Dragon died with Kano. You're the last one, Jarek.
Never!
Or that's maybe Sonya's ending. I don't know. All those endings in those games are so trash. So I gotta put it in worst. I think MK4 is pretty mediocre. I think that was like the beginning of the decline. We got MK1, MK2, and MK2 being peak. I think 4 was really kind of solidifying, like, whoa, can Midway keep up with the competition and keep making good fighting games? And I think that was the first time they showed, maybe not. And let's go into actually the Midway 3D era, the full console release. And I think we should start with Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. And before we go into that, I actually want to watch the opening. I think the opening for these Midway games were really fun, and they told a lot of story in it. So let's go ahead and check it out.
Mortal Kombat has always been and always will be.
Yeah, see, I loved when it showed Liu Kang. Liu Kang training in the Wuxi Temple, and you see Kung Lao in the back, not knowing what's gonna happen.
Some seek to use the tournament to destroy all
I
that
think
is
MK
good.
Deadly Alliance, gameplay-wise, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I think them going to the two style and the weapon fight system wasn't the best. I think it was pretty cheesy, honestly, because some characters who had swords had the ability to stab you, and if you stab them, their life drains over time. So I always joke with my friends that whenever we played this game as a kid, you would just stab, like, because I would use Kung Lao, because I know his broadsword can stab you. So when I would stab you with Kung Lao, all I would do is just jump around, because I'm like, alright, I stabbed you, I already got the win, you're on a timer. You gotta now chase me and bring me down. But that game, you just keep backing, keep dodging and jumping around, and they can't stop you. So I thought gameplay-wise, I like the story. I thought it was super ballsy to kill Liu Kang, but I'm gonna go ahead and put Deadly Alliance in average. I think it's a pretty weak Mortal Kombat game, but not the worst. Not the worst. I think there are some worse ones to come. The next one I want to go into is honestly Mortal Kombat Deception, and that was, as people know, MK6, the Rise of Onaga, the Dragon King. We had an amazing opening with Raiden taking on the Deadly Alliance, which was really cool, and we actually see that Shang Tsung, Raiden, and Quan Chi all end up dying to Onaga. I think that's such a strong way to start off your game, where if you're new to the franchise or if you're continuing it, you just see Raiden, who everyone knows is one of the Earthrealm's defenders, one of the biggest guys, and you see him get knocked out by this new villain, and immediately you're hooked. So and I think also they improved on the roster and on the gameplay of Deadly Alliance in Deception. We had the return of Baraka, Melina, Cabal, Kenshi brought his return, and I think Kenshi being one of the goated midway 3D era characters, because not many 3D era characters made it through transitions through games, but Kenshi was one of them. I think Kenshi is a fan favorite. And Conquest, look, don't get me started on Conquest. I think that was Midway's first attempt into actually making a coherent story mode that you can play through, and it was also, I think, for people who aren't the best at fighting. I am a competitive fighting here, but I know one of my friends, he only likes Mortal Kombat for the story. So being able to play Conquest, seeing the story of Shujinko, which I believe is super interesting, and you see his downfall. For those who don't know, he leads to Deception. So yeah, I think honestly, Deception goes in great tier. I loved Mortal Kombat Deception. Also, chess combat. Can we bring back chess combat, please, guys? Come on. What are we doing? Now, let's go into, I think this is a controversial one, but Mortal Kombat DC. I think, yes, we all know this is the only teen-rated Mortal Kombat game where we had fatalities, where Kano, don't even get me started on the Kano fatality. We're going to go and show you a clip of that.
Kano wins. Fatality.
Yeah, that was his fatality. He just rolls on you and apparently breaks your back or your neck or whatever the hell that is. That is not a fatality. The fatalities in this game were dog shit, to say the least. In the most polite way, they're dog shit. So, but this game is like preliminary to Injustice, so I feel like there is some value and some worth in actually seeing characters such as Flash, Superman, Batman, and for me, I used Green Lantern. He was so fun, and I think that the game missed its mark on the Mortal Kombat characters, but for the DC Universe characters, I think that's where it really shined. Characters like Wonder Woman was very fun. Everyone knows her infamous copter move that Max Dude made famous. I don't want to say what it's called, but yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Deathstroke was great. Like the DC era characters were awesome. I think the biggest flaw with the game was its fatalities. The lack of blood in the Mortal Kombat game is to its roots a blasphemous act. But I think gameplay-wise, I'm going to put decent. I think it was actually really fun. It's a great pick-up-and-play game, and the graphics looked really good at the time compared to like Street Fighter 4. I think this was stylized and realistic, and also the damage, the body damage, that all looked really great. Now, I think we got to go into the game that all of us know. We already know where it's going. Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero with the infamous whack-ass jump mechanics, its death traps, the game not really working. The combat's bullshit, the villains are bullshit. Yeah, I think it doesn't really need to be justified. That goes into worst tier. That game is dog shit. And I think this is a game that we've all been waiting to talk about. Mortal Kombat 1. Mortal Kombat 1, guys. I know it started everything. I believe it created the ESRB system. It was either that or Mortal Kombat 2, but I believe it was MK11 that created the ESRB system. So that in itself is monumentous. We are introduced to the Earthrealm's defenders being Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, Sonya, Kano, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Raiden. Like these are the OGs of Mortal Kombat, and we had great fatalities. But I think I'm gonna have to put this in great tier. It looks great. It is a trend center, is an innovator, but I think the roster isn't the greatest. Shang Tsung as a boss, I think was kind of meh because he just turns into the other characters in the game. I believe they said due to like the memory of the game at the time was so overstuffed, so they couldn't give him his own move list, so he would just copy everyone around him. But I think just for the fact that it made the ESRB system and it gave us Earthrealm defenders, I gotta put it in great tier. Not the best. I'm not gonna put it in best. I think we know a couple other games that are going goated tier. But MK1, I give it a good grade. It's great. It's a great game. Now let's go into UMK3. I think UMK3. This I know is a fan favorite, and I think justifiably. Midway at the time heard everyone's cries and anger of the lack of character, the shit roster, and they were like, you know what, we're coming back with a vengeance. And who are we bringing in? We're bringing in Scorpion, we're bringing in Smoke, we're bringing Melina, Ermac, Reptile, all the ninjas that were missing in the first game. They also brought back classic Sub-Zero, so for the fans who were angry that he didn't have his ninja look, Midway's like, yo, we messed up, but we're coming back. And we're giving you the characters you want. And also, it has begun! We got Shao Kahn, baby. You suck. So yeah, that game is great, and I gotta put it in great tier. UMK3 is a arcade staple. Whenever I go to arcade in like Vegas or anywhere in California, if I see the game, gotta pop in a couple quarters. I use Cabal. Cabal is really fun in that game. But they don't got my main boy Raiden or Baraka, so that is unfortunate. But still, we got the ninjas, the cyborg ninjas. What else can we say? It's a good game. Now let's go into... I want to talk about MK11. I think MK11 is a very interesting game. For NRS fans, I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comments, because I am an NRS player, but I like Capcom and anime fighters. But in college, most of my friends were anime fighters, and we were the NRS guys. And they were always complaining about NRS games feeling so clunky, so robotic, and the animations look just so fake. And comparing it to like anime games where it is so free flow, I think MK11 was the first time I played an NRS game and I'm like, man, everything these anime fighters were saying, I agree with. MK11 I think is the most restrictive, the most, I don't even know if it's like bare bone, but I think it's like one of the least fun games NRS has ever made. Like, their variation system, they messed up on the variation system that came in Mortal Kombat X. Like, the fact that it took them, I think, at least a year, I'm thinking, to put variations into like competitive play where you can actually pick the ones that you like, because a lot of them weren't tournament legal. So I have to praise it though on one thing: graphics, best looking fighting game I think ever made at the time. Even now, I think the only fighting game that rivals it, maybe surpasses it, is Guilty Gear Strive. I think any other fighting game does not come close to how good MK11 looks. The story is great. The story is great. We got Shao Kahn coming back. We had Kronika, who I believe was a great villain, but I think they didn't give her enough to do. Like, her whole thing was just to, I guess, screw with the timelines, and then I just don't think she was given enough to do. But I think premise-wise, she was very cool. I thought being like the Master of Time was awesome. But I gotta put MK11, because I think, like, graphically, it looks really good. Story-wise, it's pretty great. I think there are problems with it. For anyone who knows me, Raiden's my favorite character, and the fact that they just got rid of Dark Raiden immediately, I think was pretty disappointing for MKX, where they were gonna set the franchise where it was going, and the story, just for them to say, okay, Raiden's gone. You guys don't like him, he's gone. But I think I was interested to see an evil Raiden, but I know some people thought it was too similar to Evil Superman. So this is a tough one, because I think it's a bad game, but I'm like, oh, is it worse than MK versus DC? I don't know. it is a bad game. I'm gonna put it in average. I think it is a C game. It isn't a D. I think it's average. I think it is an average fighting game, but for an NRS Mortal Kombat game, I think it's bad. But overall, as a fighting game, I think it's average. Now we gotta go into, let's talk about Shaolin Monks. I hope the people that are listening, they grew up on those 3D era games. Shaolin Monks being a very fun one. Everyone knows its iconic opening. Let's play a quick clip of that opening.
A battle raged at the end of the first tournament. The forces of Earthrealm were facing their greatest challenge. Mortal Kombat!
Yeah, you saw it. That was it literally is an opening that shows the entire tournament. No, 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 no. Yeah. That opening is iconic. It is goated. We see all of the big hitters. Everyone that you want to be in the opening is there. We got Kano fighting Johnny and Sonya. We got Baraka fighting Kung Lao, which I believe kind of started that rivalry that they had, because in Armageddon they come back fighting each other again. So I thought that was great. And also Goro. That opening of Goro. Yeah, and Johnny getting the fuck beaten out of him. I love it. I love everything about this opening. The story's great, but the elefante in the room is it's not the traditional fighting game. I think the gameplay for the story mode is great. It is a fun it's a great story. I think because it wasn't the most beloved when it came out. I think people were at the time burnt out from Mortal Kombat, but I think just its subversion and actually trying a different genre and actually succeeding in doing that, I loved it. I loved everything about the game. I think just the roster for the versus mode was a bit weak, but I mean, even in the game, you can put in cheat codes to play Mortal Kombat 2. You can play a ported version of Mortal Kombat 2. Like, what more can you ask for? And it's so sad that they were discussing a possible sequel. I believe it was called like Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice. That was supposed to focus on Scorpion and Sub-Zero leading the story mode. That would have been awesome. I would have loved that, but I guess somewhere down the line it got canceled, and that's very unfortunate. And people now are kind of hoping that it finds its way back into development. Like I think we are a little bit tired, at least I am a little bit tired of the story formula that more NRS games have been doing, where you play a character, you do 4 rounds with that character, you play the next character, do another 4 rounds with the character, move on. I think Shaolin Monks was a great breath of fresh air at the time, so I loved it. I'm gonna put that game in great. I think Shaolin Monks is a very underrated game. I like it a lot. I love it. Now, time to address Mortal Kombat Gold. So, Mortal Kombat 4, as we mentioned, it is in shit tier. It is worse. It is terrible. But MK Gold is very similar to UMK3, where they heard the complaints of the fans with the shit roster, shit mechanics, and I think just a lack of fan favorites. I mean, we got Kai, Tanya. I think honestly, I like Reiko, but they didn't do anything with him at the time. He was kind of like, who are these characters? Fujin, which they fixed later on. But MK Gold is like, alright guys, we're learning that people like fan favorite characters. We gotta give them fan favorite characters. So we got Cyrax, Sector, Baraka, my boy Baraka, and Melina Katana. It was a good roster increase. I think that was great, but I think the gameplay for like a roster upgrade isn't gonna change the gameplay too much. I think it's still a buggy, janky game, but it is an improvement from Mortal Kombat 4. So this is going average tier, boys. We're putting this in average. It is a D game. better than 4, but not by much. Okay, let's go into Trilogy. I think Trilogy pretty much is like the third. Alright, before I get canceled, not as in quality of Third Strike, but it's MK3, UMK3, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, as it is like Street Fighter, Second Impact, Third Strike. So that is the last time I'll ever compare Mortal Kombat Trilogy to Third Strike. But to the third strike of the franchise, Trilogy, and I think there are things that are cool about Trilogy, mainly the massive roster that is in the game. Pretty much every character from 1 to 3 is in it. But I think the most notable thing is that is where they changed Johnny Cage's mocap character, or like the modeled after, from Daniel Casina to this new guy, because I believe it was Daniel and Midway were having a fight over, I believe, like royalties or pay, where he didn't think he was getting fairly compensated, so Midway went to hire a new guy as Johnny Cage. We're gonna go and put some clips up, see how his combat goes. I think he's kind of whack, but yeah, I think there's no Mythologies, but it ain't no MK vs. DC /11. So I'm gonna put this in average. I think the roster is cool. I personally am not the biggest fan of it, but yeah, I put it in average. Okay, guys. So we're looking at these big boys left. We got MK9, Armageddon, 2 Special Forces, and MKXL. So let's go into MK9. MK9 is a huge game for Mortal Kombat fans because it brought the franchise back to life. Back to life. But yeah, I think there is not much to be said as to why it goes into best tier. I think it is pretty self-explanatory, but let me explain it to you guys why it is. As I said, it brought back the franchise from death. It introduced story mode into a fighting game which was unheard of at the time. And the roster, it literally is MK greatest hits. We got characters from MK all the way from 1 to 3, and this is the first time for an MK game to have DLC, and actually really good DLC. They heard the fans and they're like, alright guys, we know Kenshi was a banger, he's goated, he's coming in. We got Cyber Sub-Zero is a great character, but I actually don't think he is DLC. But we got Rain, Scarlet. We got Scarlet and Rain, dude. Oh my god, Scarlet or Rain's spin kick that literally bounces on the other side of the screen, guys. Come on, what more can we ask for? Everyone loves Purple Rain, and Rain. Rain's baller, man. What can we say? He's baller. He's got cool fatalities. And Scarlet, you know, people love her design in this game. I actually like her design more in MK11, but for those that like fully naked Scarlet, more power to you. I'm not here to judge. So yeah, I think combat-wise, it is great. Also, I love 2v2. Where is 2v2 coming back in Mortal Kombat fighting games? Because they always kept complaining about, like, oh, we can't do 2v2. Flashback to like 2013 when Injustice 1 was coming out. I remember I was on Twitter as a middle school self tweeting to Ed Boots, hey, do you think tag team's gonna be in Injustice 1 Gods Among Us? And then he said, sorry, they're unfortunately just focusing on 1v1 gameplay. And they've been doing that ever since Injustice 1, and no fighting game since then has had 2v2 combat. And I think 2v2 combat is a perfect party mode and a great competitive mode. Bring back 2v2 NRS. So yeah, MK9 is goated. S tier, holy S tier. Oh, it's great. Now we need to go into Mortal Kombat Special Forces. I'm just gonna put it in worst, so I don't really need to describe it. Everyone knows why it's dog shit. Yeah. Now, Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Armageddon actually, this was pretty much like the last of the Midway era fighting games, of the Midway era Mortal Kombat games, like continuity wise, because yes, MK vs. DC is in that same timeline, or this is made by Midway, but it's not really in that same continuity because they don't really talk about Blaze or anything like that. It's its own universe. But Armageddon, I gotta say, what I love about Armageddon, it has every single character in Mortal Kombat history as a playable character in this fighting game. what more can we ask for? It has Mortal Kombat. Bring back Mortal Kombat, Ed. Yeah, and also I think the Conquest mode, it upped itself even more from Deception. Deception had the great one with Jinko, and where you get to live through his life. And Mortal Kombat Armageddon is like, nah, Deception, hold my beer. We're gonna make a God of War for a Mortal Kombat Conquest. A portion of the game they put so much time and say, yeah, we're giving you free flow combat. It is like an Arkham before Arkham, where you get to play as Taven and literally knocking out, jumping to all these different realms, and it is so fun. But I think, yeah, obviously the 3D era fighting games, like it being a like walk around type of fighting game, isn't the most interesting. But I think it is a step up from Deadly Alliance, but a step down from Deception, because Deception had great fatalities, and in Armageddon, for those who don't know, it is creative fatalities. And I can understand why they did creative fatalities, because I mean, with a roster of like 50 characters, how do you make 2 fatalities or even 1 fatality for every character? It can get a little bit hard. So they gave you the creative fatality, which I do not like, but I understand why they did it. So I'm going to go ahead and put Armageddon into decent. I think it is a fun game. Mortal Kombat's great. Bring it back. Bring back more mini-game modes. Yeah, I think it's a decent game. Now, we got MK2 and MKX. I want to talk about MKX. So, MKX is, in my opinion, one of the best fighting games ever made. I think its combat, its characters, its roster, its story, it is one of, I think it is nearly a perfect fighting game. My only problem with it is the amount of guest characters, which I didn't mention it for MK11. I hated how many guest characters were in that game. Like what is it? Half the roster is either 80, half the DLC roster is either 80s action characters or Spawn and Joker. Like, what the fuck? Give us Mortal Kombat characters. People want Havoc. People want Reiko. People want so many other characters than these comic book or 80s action characters. But I think MKX, it was fine because MK9 set the precedent with Freddy Krueger, and then MK said, you know what? Let's put it up a little bit by making it a horror fighting game, which I can respect. And it wasn't super intrusive work. That is the entire DLC roster. So I'm gonna put MKXL into best tier, and I think this was also the birth. Like, I think what was so special about MKXL was it was like the birth of like some of the legends we're seeing in the NRS scene now. This is when I was first introduced to Sonic Fox. Aaron Blackmane, when he would literally beat you, he would teabag while holding back, so as Aaron Black. He literally was unstoppable. Sonic Fox it was awesome watching Fatal 8, and I think MKXL really showed, NRS showed that, hey, we're here to stay. MK9 was like, I think, the proof of concept, where like, alright, we're going to give you these characters, we're going to give you everything that you like, and then it's a bit nostalgic, but MKXL was like, yo, this is our third strike, and non-ironically, I really do think MKXL really came swinging for the fences, and it really stuck the landing. And like, we had some great characters like the Combat Kids, which story-wise, I think they weren't the most interesting, but I think design-wise they were awesome. Cassie Cage had some of the most badass moves and fatalities. Kung Jin is great. I love that scene with him and Raiden when Kung Jin is trying to steal that monument from the great Kung Lao, or actually it might be from it's Kung Lao, I believe, the one that dies from my boy Shao Kahn. But yeah, I think story-wise is great. That is the birth, or like the rebirth of Dark Raiden, which MK11 unfortunately fumbled the ball. But yeah, I think MK11 is in best tier, and I'm gonna put this actually above MK9. It's gonna be a ranked, an ordered tier list. So I'm gonna put MKXL above MK9 just for, I think, the combat, the run mechanic. It was, I think, a very, very, very innovative and great fighting game. I love it. MK2, boys, it's going into great tier. No, it's not. That is in best tier. That is the best Mortal Kombat fighting game ever made. It literally is. I got my MK2 fight cabinet right there. Arcade 1-Up fight cabinet. This is an MK2 Shao Kahn helmet. Like, guys, this is an MK2 shirt. Like, guys, MK2 is goated. It created the Mortal Kombat franchise. Like, yes, 1 started it all, but I think MK2 was really solidified. We're here to stay, and we are fighting Street Fighter 2. It's Street Fighter 2 MK2. I think is not really, oh, Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat 1. It's like, nah. The big boys and big hitters, Street Fighter 2, MK2. You picked your side. For me, I'm a bigger Mortal Kombat fan. Still love Street Fighter, but the amount of gore, fatalities, like, what better way to insult your opponent is that when you beat them, like, no, stand up, I'm not done, I'm gonna fatality you, bro. Johnny Cage got the triple decap, Raiden got the and Baraka nail and impale, impale and lift their ass, boys. Alright guys, yeah, this is my tier list, my ranked tier list of Mortal Kombat fighting games. I thought this was just a fun thing to do because I am really excited for MK12 because, as I mentioned, I think MK11 was a bit of a whiff. I think gameplay-wise it focused too much on being balanced instead of, because I think fighting games do need to be a little bit broken. That's why people love people love Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Capcom vs. SNK. I think there needs to be a little bit of jank in a fighting game because that really breeds creativity and freedom. But I think MK11 really said, this is one way to play the character, you have to play this character this way, and if you don't want to, play a different character, which I think is very, very tragic. But I have faith in NRS. I think they've taken a long break because I think MK11 was what, like 2019, 2018, so it's been 4 or 5 years since the last NRS game, and I'm very excited. And I hope that NRS, Ed Boon, and all the creatives behind the game do listen to the fans and focus on making a more fun game rather than a game focused mainly on esports, because I don't think games survive as long when you focus on that route. But yeah, this is my tier list, and we're going to do more of these tier list ranking videos because we just find them fun, and it is like a discussion video where I'm curious to hear what your guys' favorites are, because I know a lot of people love MK3 and some people like it more than MK2. So what are some of your favorite Mortal Kombat games? What are some of your least favorite? I think we can all agree that Mythologies is pretty whack, but if you like it, let me know why you like it. I think it's a pretty hard game with this jump mechanic, but maybe you're a pro at it and you never died. But yeah, go ahead and share what you thought in the comments. I would love to hear you guys, and we'll comment you back. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye. You suck.